Hello, everybody. If you have just found my channel through this video somehow, and you have not watched the rest of the videos according to this series, this is the next to last book in the series. So if you just got here through this channel, through this series, I recommend going and finding the first book for the playlist that I've got. It should be volume 1, obviously. And go and start listening to it. Otherwise, you're going to be so dang lost. Other than that, let's continue. Vows in the Garden of Beginnings. Eglantine, I implore you to reconsider, Anastasius exclaimed. Are you truly comfortable with your choice? The nobles of other duchies have yet to be informed. If you've changed your mind, now is your only chance to say so. We had just concluded a meeting in the Ehrenfest dormitory, and we're now back in our villa. Anastasius held my hand and spoke in a low, almost threatening voice, but his eyes betrayed nothing but concern for me. Even if my resolve to become the next Zent crumbled, he would go to any length to protect me. You don't wish to take the throne, do you? My husband continued. You were openly against the idea both when we were engaged and when we ordered Rozemyne to circle the shrines. He must have thought I had suddenly changed my tune, or that I had been lying to him from the start. Well, you've had to have changed your mind, or you those had to have been the options there. I took his hand in both of mine. Before now, avoiding the throne was the best way to prevent, another war. Striving to rule Juergenschmidt would have violated the promise we made to cede the throne to Prince Sigiswald. Tensions between Klassenberg and Drawongo would have risen, as the former would have wanted me to become the Zent, and the latter had agreed to marry Lady Adolphine to the first prince because he was in place to take the throne. We had other options back then, I stressed. Of course I opted for them. In terms of obtaining the Gruterscheid, Lady Rozemyne was already far ahead of me. I wanted nothing more than to preserve the peace, and that in that regard it had made the most sense to adopt her into the royal family and secure the holy book through her. If we had arranged a marriage between her and the next Zent, at the time, Prince Sigiswald, then the entire situation would have been neatly resolved. That side of you is why Rozemyne accused the royal family of taking someone dear to her hostage, Anastasius said. Oh my, but any noble would behave in such a way, not just a royal. Is it really so uncommon to exploit another's weakness to guarantee their cooperation? Lady Rozemyne took the same approach with us. Eglantine, my husband said, a bitter expression forming on his face. Anastasius' reaction intrigued me. There were plenty of examples one could turn to, and my very own love life was among them. Ob Klassenberg and my grandfather had forced me to choose between Prince Sigiswald and my current husband, refusing me the opportunity to even consider other men. Their actions had denied me any chance of escape. So essentially, you did not get to pick who you married. But thankfully, you were already in love with Anastasius, so it didn't really matter, essentially. And yet, Lady Rozemyne fought tooth and nail to escape her predicament. Most admirable. Before her adoption, she had obtained the Book of Messinora and claimed another duchy to save Lord Ferdinand, thereby ensuring she would not become the Zent. She had even acquired more status in our family by becoming the avatar of a goddess before she was due to give me the Gruterscheid. Well, I mean, that wasn't her plan originally. I regret only that nobody else in the royal family was resolved and capable enough to accept it. King Trarquil had refused the Gruterscheid on the grounds of his performance during the recent war. I mean, yeah, I can understand that. Anastasius had lacked the elements to wield it. And as for Prince Sigiswald, he had refused to swear loyalty to Lady Rozemyne because that was one of the conditions in order to even get a chance at it. Despite having the power to eliminate us, Lady Rozemyne and Lord Ferdinand resisted their impulses, saved our lives, and went on to forge the most peaceful path for Juergenschmidt's future. We had no choice in the matter, not when our daughter was on the line, but I take no issue with preventing another war. Anastasia's eyes widened. I cocked my head in response. Were my words really so shocking to him? My views have not changed, I said, merely my situation. My thoughts, feelings, and the things I aspire to, everything about me is the same. I have simply decided that becoming the Zent will resolve the situation more peacefully than anything else. I see, Anastasius muttered, calmer than before. He sensed that he would not be able to stop me and gave a defeated smile. They might have paved this path for me, but I tread it of my own volition, I continued, though it still makes me anxious, I must admit. Well, I mean, you're going to become the ruler of the whole country. Of course you're going to be anxious about it. I released Anastasius' hand. No matter how much he decried it, I would take the throne, both to protect our daughter and to prevent another war from tearing through Juergenschmidt. I could not think of a better solution. And what are your thoughts on the matter, I asked. Am I, not as you remember me? Before I could even emphasize that this was his only chance to divorce me, He took my hand and squeezed it tight. I too remain the same. I will do whatever it takes, give up whatever I must to remain your husband. I shall dance to their tune just to be beside you. Oh, he still loves her, no matter what. He raised a teasing eyebrow, no matter how much it might frustrate me. I could not help but laugh. His wry remark reminded me how much he had complained about Lord Ferdinand making him complete all manner of tasks despite his status as a royal. You will soon be married to the Zent, I said. Your struggles will continue for some time. We gazed into each other's eyes and then laughed together. It put me at ease to know I would not be marching down this path alone. Anastasius, I wish to become a Zent who does everything in her power to prevent war, who stands in opposition to the pain and death it causes. I approached the transference ceremony with that resolve, but what on earth is going on here? The situation was beyond any of our expectations. Lady Rozemyne had disappeared upon completing her dedication whirl. She had not beat a hasty retreat. She had quite literally vanished into thin air. Lord Ferdinand, while hidden from view, had instructed me to perform a dedication whirl of my own. My heart pounded at the thought of the shrine not opening for me, but the statues eventually moved aside to create a path. I ascended toward it, acting as though this were all part of our plan, and soon arrived at the Garden of Beginnings. Inside this vast expanse of white, the same place where I had obtained my staff, I found Lady Rozemyne writhing on the ground, resisting some unseen force, while Lord Ferdinand attempted to restrain her. She twisted and kicked her legs, letting her skirt slide up to her knees. It hurts. Oh, come on. I feel so bad for her. I understand, but you must stay still. We were lucky to have found Lady Rozemyne and was too stunned to feel relieved. It looked entirely like Lord Ferdinand was enacting some crude violence upon her. The unexpected scene made my head spin. There must be an explanation for this. Lord Ferdinand, Lady Rozemyne, was this really worth interrupting the transference ceremony? I asked timidly. We don't have a choice in the matter, dude. The gods decided to intervene again. Lord Ferdinand, seemingly at his wit's end, asked me to assist him in removing Lady Rozemyne's charm. She was on the brink of death, he explained, and the only way to save her was to allow Mestinora back into her body. Excuse me? This is all too sudden. I was glad to know Lord Ferdinand had not given in to... Dude! Do you really think he would do that to her? No, he's not. One, he's not gonna do that without her consent because, well, he's not that type of guy. Two, I don't think he is interested right now in that. At least not while she's underage. But the truth was even more harrowing. I had just given Lady Rozemyne my name. If she ascended to the distant heights, I would be going with her. Hurts. Lady Rozemyne, I said, you must not move your arms around. It was hard to remove Lady Rozemyne's elaborate ornaments when she would not stop squirming and screaming. Each time I pulled up her sleeves as searching for the clasps I would need to undo, she swung her arms and obscured my vision with billowing cloth. Could you keep her arm in place, I asked. I cannot find the clasp. Take her wrist like this and... like this? I instructed Lord Ferdinand on how to keep Lady Rozemyne still, and eventually managed to remove her ornaments. They were beautiful and covered with tiny rainbow face stones. No sooner had the ornaments come away, they landed on the ground with a light clatter, then light rained down from above and enveloped Lady Rozemyne like a cocoon. It was nothing like the divine power radiating from her. More than anything else, I was stunned to see that I had not been deceived. A goddess genuinely had descended. The light surrounded Lady Rozemyne, then leisurely ascended into the air. I sighed, taken with the divine sight. While Lord Ferdinand rose to his feet, Lady Eglantine, take your distance and kneel, he said. The goddess smites those who are insolent. Are you speaking from experience? Yes! Yes! Now that Gervasia was absent, Lord Ferdinand was the only one who had experienced Mestinora's previous descent. I took his advice, stepped back, and went down on one knee as he did. The original purpose of the Zent was to mediate between mankind and the gods, Ferdinand informed me. Take care not to be overly obedient. Do not make undue promises that will distort society as we know it. I swallowed dryly. In my mind, the Zent was simply the person who ruled Juergensmith. Their purpose was to balance the needs and wishes of each duchy while providing the entire country with mana. The desires of the gods had never factored into it. That must be even more lost knowledge. Only a Zent with the Greytershire could carry out their purpose. That was something I would need to remember. By receiving the Holy Book from Mestinora's divine avatar, I would accept the burdens of the throne until the day came for me to pass the torch on to a new generation of Zent candidates who would obtain their Book of Mestinora through their own power. The ways of the gods and the ways of men, two cultures worlds apart. There was so little I understood. I was studying the ancient language, but my knowledge of the deities was mediocre at best. Some things had to be seen to be believed. Considering that I would soon become the Zent, it was perhaps a blessing that I was here to witness the descent of the goddess. Quinta, what have you done to Ewerman? Mestinora asked immediately upon taking Lady Rozemyne's form. Ewerman, from what I remember, he was a subordinate of Avigleb who earned the god of life's ire for protecting Mestinora and Geduld's subordinates. Was he the former god who became Juergensmith's core? And who is Quinta? I searched my memories as best I could, unable to hide my shock that a name I had encountered only in lectures and old books had come up so naturally in conversation. Judging by the anger in Mastanora's voice, Lord Ferdinand must have done something to a wereman. I continued to kneel, holding my breath and staring intently at the white ground while I awaited his response. First, tell me what the gods have done to Rozemyne, Lord Ferdinand said. How convenient that only the descent of a goddess could keep her from the distant heights. That is not how you answer a goddess. I stared quizzically at the pair. Lord Ferdinand was still on one knee, but he raised his head and glared into Mastanora's eyes. Goodness, she replied, as insolent as ever, I see. It is such a terrible shame that Terza never returned. He was far better suited to becoming a Zend than you or mine. She was not even attempting to hide the regret in her voice. I furrowed my brow. The goddess had mentioned even more names that were unknown to me, but one did not need expert powers of deduction to realize she meant Lord Ferdinand, Lady Rozemyne, and Lord Gervasio. I wonder why they have secondary names. Is one given a special title upon receiving the Book of Mastanora? Unsure what to think, I could only stay silent as the debate between man and goddess continued. The moment I arrived, Lord Ferdinand said, I was informed that Rozemyne was on the verge of succumbing to the god's power, and that I would need to remove her charms to save her. I do not consider it insolent to ask how she ended up in such peril to begin with. I agree. He spoke politely and continued to kneel, but that did not change the fact he was arguing with the goddess of wisdom. I grew dizzy as I pondered whether this counted as sacrilege. You would take that tone despite knowing how easily I could dispatch you. Would it really be so easy? Rozemyne wished for my survival and lent you her body at the cost of her most precious memories. Taking my life while using her form would violate a promise made between gods and men. There were many stories about the breaking of such promises, and each one the culprit was punished be they man or god. I raised my head just enough to see how the goddess would respond. Though she had taken Lady Rozemyne's form, one could tell at a glance that she was not the same person. She levitated in place for a start, and exuded the most spectacular light. Her eyes were a brighter gold than those of her host, and simply witnessing their ferocity compelled me to submit. I could not risk meeting her gaze, so I returned to facing the ground. How irritating. And if we put mine's life on the scales instead? She is important to you, is she not? Rozemyne is too important for the gods to lose. The lives of everyone in Jurgensmith capable of reaching the foundation are bound to her. Yeah! Name sworn. So if she dies, Eglantine dies, and a bunch of other people die, that could help. Lord Ferdinand wore a smile, even in the face of a threat from a goddess. He had given his name to Lady Rozemyne and urged me to do the same, for leverage against the gods. Moreover, while the gods seemed to think Gervasio was suited to becoming the Zent, no one poses a greater threat to a wereman and Jurgensmith. Oh? I refuse to believe there is anyone more dangerous than you. I wanted to concur. Anastasia told me about the recent battle, and we have both been present for Lady Rozemyne's meeting with the royal family. Lord Ferdinand did not even wince at the claim. It was Gervasio who supplied Jurgensmith with the silver weaponry, and the poison paralyzing a wereman, tools that have already claimed dozens of nobles' lives. I dread to imagine what he might have done to this country had he not been taken out of the picture. I forbade men from taking each other's lives. The tools themselves hold no malice. One could devise a way for them to activate simply by being touched, harming or killing someone by accident, or through the actions of others. He had gotten Anastasius to destroy Gervasio's meadow, denying the latter his staff and the future he desired, so I could imagine him stooping to such dupery as well. Furthermore, Lord Ferdinand continued, do not forbid attacks on a wereman. It is beyond mere mortals to harm him. Not with the weaponry Gervasio provided. Lord Ferdinand swept a hand through the air and threw a silver knife. I took a sharp breath and instinctively looked up to follow the blade of my eyes. Only then did I notice the large ivory man standing completely immobile. Since coming to the Garden of Beginnings, I had been too focused on Lady Rozemyne's anguish and then the descent of a genuine goddess. A wereman, Mastanora cried. Thick yellow light shot from her fingertips, but it was no use. The blade passed straight through the goddess's defense, tore through some of Wereman's white tresses, and then continued its arc before stabbing into the ground. See? Silver weapons can cut through mana, so your mana is nothing to it. No sooner had the hairs been severed than they turned into branches which landed on the clatter. He really is a tree in human form. I stared at the fallen branches, feeling entirely out of place. It was far, far beyond me to mediate this dispute. I shrank down and held my breath, desperate not to be drawn into the fray. Quinta! Tell me, what did the gods did to Rozemyne? How to fully remove the sway of her divine power, and what means, other than channeling mana into her, will restore her lost memories? Lord Ferdinand demanded. In return, I will give a wereman the antidote for the poison keeping him frozen. Mestinor was forced to nod. I would rather you not approach Wehrman ever again, Quinta. Give me the antidote. Not before you provide the information I seek, because, I mean, hello? You could, if we gave you the antidote before we got the information, you could simply just not give us the information, and then we would be in trouble, essentially. So yeah, give us the information first, then we give you the antidote. After yet another glaring contest with her rival, Mestinor pointed at me. Then have Eglantine administer the antidote while I explain. My attempt to remain hidden had been in vain, but I was more surprised that she knew my name. Lord Ferdinand approached and placed a small sweet in my hand. Here, put this in your mouth before you do anything else. It will protect you from the instant death poison on the Wehrman. From what? By this point, I was forced to agree with Mestinor. There was no one more dangerous than Lord Ferdinand. He had used instant death poison on the Wehrman, the very core of Juergenschmidt. There was no being more divine or more important to our country's future. I was still dazed when Lord Ferdinand gave me a second antidote, this time in the form of a small potion. He explained how to use it, and the small sweet. The first, spray the liquid potion on the Wehrman's hands. Once he is able to move them, have him drink the rest. I do not know how touching the divine power of the gods will impact you. Feeling tense, I accepted the antidote and stood. Lord Ferdinand and the goddess continued their back and forth while I moved closer to a Wehrman. As it turned out, the gods had mistakenly believed that Lady Rozemyne's charms, made to prevent Mestinor's descent, also obstructed the gods' blessings. They had gone all out in an attempt to break through them, overwhelming Lady Rozemyne with more divine power than a mortal body could contain. Because she was still dyed with Mestinor's mana from the goddess's previous descent, Lady Rozemyne soon found the gods' blessings violently rebounding within her. To remove that sway of that divine power, she would need to be almost entirely drained of divine mana and then re-dyed with human mana. Does the goddess truly want Lord Ferdinand to drain Lady Rozemyne's mana and then dye her with his own? Oh no! Not this again! Is she demanding them to put winter before autumn? That's one way to do it. There's that synchronization potion to do it. Then there's just simply, putting your mana on her like she did when Mestinor first descended, essentially. Because he had to do that in order for her to remember Ferdinand, but I don't think she had forgotten him in the first place. She was just too busy reading to even pay any attention to what was going on. It was a troublesome predicament for an underage, unmarried woman to be thrown into, though I suppose the circumstances would not allow for anything untoward. Not to mention, it was clear to everyone who beheld them that Lord Ferdinand and Lady Rozemyne's union was founded in love, not political necessity. Oh my god! Would they actually agree? Would Ferdinand actually agree with that, though? Because he's not one to reveal his emotions unless he gets pushed that far, and even then, he probably wouldn't even say whether he was in love with someone or not. Because I don't even think he actually ever felt that way about anybody. So, yeah. If we kept, and besides, Rozemyne probably wouldn't even realize that she is anyway, because, like I said, this whole idea of romance and stuff in this world is so different from what she knows of in Japan that it confuses her, essentially. If we kept it to ourselves, I suspected no one would mind winter arriving a tad earlier than expected. Still, to think a goddess's descent would have such severe repercussions. Many nobles had come to envy Lady Rozemyne for her holy appearance and the divine favor that she and she alone received. Only now was the price of those blessings clear to me. If you would excuse me, I said, looking up at a Wehrman, I must spray this potion on your hands. The last time I visited this garden, a tall ivory tree had stood where this man remained motionless. He somewhat resembled my grandfather on my father's side, the previous Zent, so I felt strangely close to him. I sprayed the antidote on a Wehrman's hand, which slowly started to move again. It would do you well to drink the rest, I said, depositing the potion in his hands. Your Wehrman did as instructed, and the rest of this paralysis faded. Indeed, I can move again. I am shocked that Quinta came here with such dangerous weapons. It was Gervasio who brought them into Juergenschmidt, I reported. He used the poison on Ahrensbach and sovereign nobles, but rather than paralyze them, it turned them into face stones in an instant. Yeah, this is just a modified version. We had encountered the same poison in the palace and the Royal Academy's auditorium. It had not taken us by surprise. We had prepared ourselves even, but some of our own had perished to it nonetheless. Lord Ferdinand obtained the weapons during our battle for the Academy, but had not even attempted to use them before now. It was only natural that we Juergenschmidt nobles felt wary of the Lanzanovians, who had resorted to such lethal means without hesitation. I agreed that it was dangerous, psychotic even, for Lord Ferdinand to use instant death poison against you, but he is right that we could not allow Gervasio to become the Zent. Juergenschmidt would have seen chaos and war on an unprecedented scale. So those are the circumstances of the world of men, a Wehrman said. He sighed, then seemed to realize something and quietly asked, Eglantine, for what purpose have you come here? I received the Grujashite from Lady Rozemyne and will soon be crowned the new Zent. My apologies for not mentioning it sooner. I shall restore the bridge that once connected mankind to the gods. How can you claim to be the Zent when you lack the Book of Messinora? You have neither the mana nor the prayer to be worthy of the role. Come again? I am unworthy? Yeah, you didn't get the Book of Messinora like Rozemyne and Ferdinand did, so of course he's going to say that. You had started to do it with the shrines, but then you were told to stop because you were pregnant, so you didn't get to finish that. Lord Ferdinand had led me to believe that anyone who received the Grujashite from Lady Rozemyne will be recognized as the new Zent, but not by the gods, but whatever. The gods appeared to disagree. I turned to him at once, hoping for an explanation, but he had since finished speaking with Messinora and approached me. The goddess floated leisurely through the air before sitting above a woman's shoulder. Lady Eglantine is a necessary intermediary for us, Lord Ferdinand declared. As we discussed before, Zents from the next generation onward will once again be chosen from among those who obtain the Book of Messinora themselves. She will rule Jugenschmidt with a Grujashite, or a magic tool of one, at least. Goodness, an artificial Grujashite, Messinora asked, her tone chastising. You would repeat the errors of Albsenti. 1 generation, he said. 1 generation of doing this. I shrank back on instinct. In the presence of a goddess, with my understanding of how the Grujashite had come to be inherited, I was intolerably ashamed to be a member of the royal family. Lord Ferdinand shook his head. This magic tool was made in such a way that it cannot be passed down. The next Zent will obtain the Book of Messinora through their own power. We need only buy enough time for the next generation to be raised. The world of men is always so troublesome, Messinora said. Oh, what do you expect? We gotta do with what we got. We gotta do what we can with what we got. Lord Ferdinand picked up something wrapped in silver cloth, then removed the magic rope and sealing face stones that were keeping the cover in place. He took out a sizable bracelet decorated with a large face stone. Lady Eglantine, he said, please put your hand through this and register your mana with it. Registering my mana with the bracelet and casting the appropriate spell will make the Grujashite appear in my hands. I could not believe the technological savvy of Zent Albsenti, the inventor of the tool, or Lord Ferdinand, who had made it anew. Their talents were almost inhuman. How curious, I said. If you were this capable, Lord Ferdinand, then why did you not strive to take the throne? For the same reason you avoided it, despite being the only member of the royal family who could enter the shrines. He did not wish to become a seat of war. That is agreeable, I said. We each have our own circumstances. No matter how extraordinary someone might be, I understand that some things are simply beyond the control of a single person. Eglantine, do you really agree with Quinta? Messinora asked, almost unable to believe her ears. Is the world of men truly as he says? I stood up straight. Lord Ferdinand had warned me of the vast chasm that separated the worlds of men and the gods. He had likely stood against Overlord and Messinora because either one of them understood our perspective as humans. My life so far has taught me the value of peace, I said. For the sake of avoiding another war, I consider the path Lord Ferdinand proposes more reliable than any other. His methods for obtaining what he desires might stand out for their intensity, but the future he seeks is one of stability. In your opinion as a human, is his path more reasonable than mine's? I thought about Lady Rozemyne for a moment. Though we had not spent much time together, many aspects of her mindset stood out to me. Lady Rozemyne does not enjoy war, but she is intensely self-centered, I eventually replied. Lord Ferdinand and I believe that the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. We do what we must to preserve the greater peace. Lady Rozemyne, on the other hand, would go to dangerous lengths to protect those closest to her. A normal Archduke candidate would not have invaded Arensbach and stolen its foundation for the sake of a single man. Considering the balance of power between duchies, the lives of the knights who had fought with her, and the social impact of the invasion, Lady Rozemyne would have minimized the death toll and secured a greater advantage by allowing Lord Ferdinand to perish, accepting reparations from Arensbach, and putting the royal family in her debt. Even while attending her Royal Academy lessons, Lady Rozemyne spoke of the library city she hoped to build, blind to the fact that her people would not share her obsession with books. She prioritizes her own desires more than the needs of society, mortal or divine, and would, as a result, make a far worse Zent than Lord Ferdinand. If she ever entered politics, those who refused to satisfy her lust would end up being swallowed and destroyed. I stole a glance at Lord Ferdinand. By taking advantage of a royal decree, he had secured his place as Lady Rozemyne's fiancé. Yep, that's essentially what... Yeah, that decree is still in place. And since she's supposed to be Ob Arensbach at some point in the future, yeah, they're technically engaged. I hoped he would remain fully devoted to correcting her mad quest to obtain all that she desired. Though, as one of her namesworn, I will always be at the mercy of her whims, but as long as you don't go against her, I think you should be good. Eglantine, do you mean you can mediate between mankind and the gods? Overlord asked. I slowly shook my head, unable to say otherwise. Because of my education, the ways of the gods have never once crossed my mind. But if preventing war between our worlds is my duty as a Ascent, then that is what I shall strive to do. Lady Eglantine, did you forget my warning? Lord Ferdinand asked with a glare. Don't be breaking promises you can't keep here. I gave him a slight smile. I appreciate your advice, but I must perform the duties expected of me. No longer am I the wife of a second prince who gave up his claim to the throne. I wish to become not someone who rules for lack of choice and relies on a magic tool, but a true Zent recognized by the gods. Though your spirit is admirable, Overlord said, the words of men cannot be trusted. You lie as easily as you breathe. He pointed to the sky above, and a beam of golden light came down. Eglantine, will you repeat your declaration as a vow to the heavens? Oh, he's setting up a contract here. Overlord was prompting me to swear an oath to the goddess of light and her subordinates. I gave Lord Ferdinand a tired smile. He was openly bitter about the gods' interference. Entered the golden light of my own volition, and then knelt before Overlord and the goddess hovering above his shoulder. I refused to let his harsh stare faze me. May all the gods be our witnesses. I gazed up into the world of the gods, and the golden light seemed to sparkle more intensely. As it stands, I am reliant on a magic tool, and my mana and prayer are both lacking. I shall do everything I can to remedy these shortcomings and become a true Zent. I hereby swear to circle every shrine, pray to the gods, and obtain my own book of Messinora. Yeah, you're gonna have to do that at some point. So that way, even if something happens to that magic tool, you'll still have your own. The golden light enveloped me. It seemed to rush into my body and then disappeared. I, Messinora, bear witness to this vow, the goddess said, her voice more soothing than before. I gazed up and saw she was wearing a gentle smile. Your women, too, looked more considerate. The promise is made, he said. I wish you luck in fulfilling it. I bowed my head lower in response, still kneeling. Okay, here we go. How far have I gotten? 26 minutes. Okay, this might not last too much longer. The new obs... wait, how much more do I have? Hold on. Wait. New obs... Okay, yeah. Here we go. The new obs, awesome magic. Finally back, Jiffy. Good work out there. Yeah, not a great haul today. I'm sure there used to be more fish in these parts. I grabbed some branches from a nearby stack, threw them in my box, and then joined the circle of men relaxing by the port. We always got together after work to chat, drink, and cook the fish we hadn't been able to sell. I dumped the branches beside me, turned my box over, and plopped down onto it. Then, using my trusty knife, I started shaving one of the branches into a skewer. Oi, I said, pass me one of them fish, will ya? Catch. Not just one, but 3 fish soared through the air toward me. Cook 'em up, and you can eat with us. It's nearly supper time. There's some salt over there if you need it. Oh, thanks. I rubbed some salt onto the fish, skewered them, and then held them over the fire. They always went nicely with some alcohol. I pulled the cup from my belt and held it out to Torum. Fill her up. We all chipped in to buy the beer so we could drink as much as we wanted, right? Torum looked at the bottle in his hands, then at me, and grimaced. You sure, Jiffy? Heard you fighting with your wife yesterday. Didn't sound pretty. Ah, don't mind that. She gave me an earful, sure, but hanging out with you lot and sharing news is part of the job. Can't expect a landswoman to understand. Sounds like hogwash to me. I wasn't the only fisherman whose wife and daughter complained about our little meetups. Anyone who thought the sea was a harsh mistress hadn't met our women. We cackled to each other and dismissed Torum's warning until at last he poured me a drink. I drained my cup and belched. Work was so awful these days that a good swig of beer was the only thing keeping me going. My fish was cooking nicely. The skin was brown, the fat crackled, and the juice ran down the skewer. So who took the fish to the castle today? Pretty sure it was Sect and Ankh. Anything interesting happen? Once again, our topic of the day was the castle. Well, the new Ob. She'd sent those arrogant foreigners packing, then closed the huge gate out at sea so they wouldn't come back. She was young enough that her hair was still down, but that didn't matter to us. She was a hero through and through. Every time one of us went to the castle, we asked the chefs and servants for any new information about her. A day after the foreigners were kicked out, a noble had sent us a request for extra fish, since some knights staying at the castle were eating through their entire stock, of course. We'd given them as much as we could as thanks for their big rescue. Someone had told us since then that the Ob loved eating fish, so we started sending her the best of whatever we caught each morning. Nice! Oi! Oh yeah, we got some big news this time, straight from the court chef. Turns out the new Ob likes Shioyaki. What the heck is that? Doesn't even sound like a real word. Is it some kind of cooking method from her old duchy? Doesn't tell us a thing about what kind of fish she likes. Get us something more useful next time. As rumor had it, the new Ob was from another duchy to the north. Maybe that was why she liked fish cooked in strange ways. We all grimaced at the lack of any decent news, but Struct and Yonk just looked at each other and cackled. Now get this. It's just a fancy name for salted fish. One of the chefs said she wanted some fish with good white meat. Everyone fell silent. Salted fish? Like what we're eating now? I gestured at my skewer, then turned it around to cook the other side of my fish. We fishermen ate this kind of food all the time. It only required 2 ingredients, both of which we got from the ocean, but it sounded way too simple for a noble. Yep, didn't believe the chefs, did we, Sect? Nope, but they triple-checked with the noble who placed the order, and it wasn't a mistake. Poor Lot must have been sweating up a storm, didn't even give him a chance to show the new Ob their skills. So she eats her fish like we do. You gotta be pulling our legs. I always thought nobles always covered their fish with strange herbs, or made it spicy enough to make their tongues go numb. Maybe she ain't too fond of spicy foreign food? Since she's from another duchy and all, hand me that fish, will ya, Jiffy? That one's mine. She ignored all the fancy noble dishes and went straight for the salted fish. Feels kinda nice, really. I gave Anka's fish and chewed on what he told us while I downed the rest of my beer. She loves the fish we bring her and prefers our style of cooking over that of Lanzanov junk. I feel closer to her than ever. Same, the last Ob had some screws loose, so I didn't care who took her place, but I'm glad we got this new girl. Couldn't blame him there. Our previous Ob had also been young, barely of age, but she was a real piece of work. Detlinde. Anything's better than that other girl. The moment her old man died, all the rules started getting ignored. She showed those foreigners across the gate way too much favoritism and didn't make them leave when they were supposed to. That's why the ocean's getting all cloudy and there ain't as many fish out there as there used to be. I didn't think that was the reason, but we definitely had a fish problem since she came into power. It was around the time the old Archduke died, and the foreigners' black and silver ships appeared that the fish started dying and the ocean lost its luster. Some merchants had made a killing from all the extra business with the foreigners, so maybe they prefer our previous Ob, but we fishermen hated her guts. Our livelihoods were at stake. I'm assuming that those ships were made with the same material that all the other stuff in Lanzanov was made, which counters mana, and since everything in Jürgen Schmidt has mana, that's why everything was dying. Yeah, those big ships blocked the port, and the guards let the foreigners be all sorts of violent. We couldn't even put them in their place without getting yelled at. It was insane. Not to mention, those creeps were kidnappers, too. I remember the evening we'd seen their wagons and carriages going to and from the port. The boxes they carried were huge, and we'd all assumed the foreigners were finally going home. We all watched them from afar and enjoyed some beer, glad to see the back of them. It wasn't until the following morning that we realized they were kidnappers. We were fishing before sunrise and we noticed bound women in the wagons. They wore nice clothes which told us they were either rich women or nobles and were being carried into the foreigners' ships. They're nobles, ain't they? One of my mates had asked. This can't be good. Whoa, 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 another had cried. If we don't do something, we're going to get the blame. News spread through the fishermen and our anger with the foreigners finally exploded. Quit wrecking our port like you own the place. We just want to fish. Your ships are in the way. Rescue the women. Attack the ships. There might be more. We quit our fishing and used our harpoons and nets to attack the foreigners. It was still dark out, so we hurt ourselves as much as we hurt our targets, but we weren't going to stop once we'd picked a fight with them. The new Ob then showed up with a group of nobles. Some wore the purple capes we were used to, but others wore black, blue, and yellow ones. They attacked the ship and settled our fight in the blink of an eye. At first I thought we were in for it, I said. Yeah, nearly soiled my trousers when they showed up. Didn't know if they were going to thank us for saving the ladies or kill us for attacking their precious trade partners. Seeing the knights arrive had made us all nervous, but they'd immediately started attacking the foreigners and rescuing the kidnapped women. They smashed those huge ships with ease, were nothing compared to nobles, huh? Don't forget what came next. The new Ob froze the ocean with that huge light and closed the gate out at sea. She even went out of her way to heal us. It's a lot to take in, but one thing's clear, she's something else. The new Ob used seasonal magic we'd never seen before. She was nothing like any of the nobles we knew. Never seen or heard of any other Obs healing commoners. She really is something else, ain't she? Some green light had rained down on us, and all the cuts and bruises on my arms had vanished. They didn't even hurt anymore. We'd seen some yellow light next, which one of the knights told us was a spell meant to protect the citizenry. He must have been right because the foreigners hadn't been able to hurt us after that. I didn't think I'd ever experience something like that again, but that was fine. I was just glad to know that the nobles saw us fishermen as worthy of protection. Well, it ain't all good, Sect complained, slumping his shoulders as he bit into his fish. My old man finally retired, but that healing spell fixed up his leg. Now he won't quit yakking about getting back to work. Guess that Okud's still got some fire in his belly. Oh boy. We all cackled. Sect's old man had punched the foreigners with as much force as he put into yelling at kids who caused trouble on the water. Now that he was better, he and Sect were fighting about who owned their boat and who was the head of the family. No two Obs are the same, huh? She's nothing like that blonde lass. The young blonde Ob had come to the port once to watch the foreign ships leave. We hadn't seen her there since, so she'd called us all eyesores and ordered us to stay home during her future visits. She even told us to moor our ships so far away that she wouldn't be able to see them. I doubted that girl would have ever healed and protected us. Yep, Detlinde is a narcissist. Well, not everyone's good at fishing. Doesn't surprise me that not everyone's good at being an ob. Just a shame that our last one was such a disaster. Our lives are at stake. We can't afford to have disasters in charge. Yeah, and it sucked while we did. Gossiping about the new ob again, huh? A new voice called. I turned and saw Furt. He wasn't a fisherman, but a shipmate on a merchant vessel that carried goods here and there. His most recent ship had taken him up north. He must have just gotten back. Good news then, he said. I saw the new ob doing some work up north. Yeah, what kind of work? We all made room for him, excited to have any news about the ob. He passed around the fruit and alcohol he brought us as souvenirs, then turned over a box and sat with us. His cup was full of beer before he knew it. So I went up to Conowitz, he began. Conowitz was a province bordering the ocean. The merchant ship Furt worked on would stop by several cities on its way north, buy local goods in Conowitz, and then return south. Furt continued, we saw Lady Rozemyne and some others on their high beasts while we were making our way back here. Lady Rozemyne, is that the new ob's name? How did you find out? It was rare for commoners to learn a noble's name. Merchants allowed to visit noble estates in the castle might pick up a few sure, but never fishermen like us. Furt gave a proud smile and said, let me get to that. Just like when she intervened in the fight, she was the only one riding a two-seater. She was carrying this big chalice-looking thing and pouring rainbow light down from the sky. It made the cloudy ocean turn clear in moments. Furt, calm the heck down, I said. I'm not following at all. You gotta explain what the rainbow light was, and don't skimp on the details. Was it like that green healing magic, or the yellow protective kind, maybe? I don't know, but it was crazy. The seaweed grew so suddenly that the ocean changed color, and the fish too thin to be caught in nets became huge. I swear all the fishermen nearby went nuts. Huh? Of course they went nuts. And you're serious? I'd never heard of magic that can make fish grow like that. Yeah, I'm serious. They started cheering and waving at Lady Rozemyne, so guess what? She waved back. Everyone cheered again, and a guy from her group came over and told everyone to pray. To pray? Yep, he said something like, Lady Rozemyne, the divine avatar of Mestanora, has become the ob of this land. Offer her your prayers. Praise be to Lady Rozemyne. That was Hartman, I'm betting. That reminded me, we were meant to pray during our baptism and coming of age. It must have been the same kind of prayer. Furt and the others in Conowitz had apparently been so thrilled they'd done as they were asked without question, inspiring Lady Rozemyne to pour even more rainbow light into the province. That's nuts. Real nuts. But we're the ones taking fish to the castle, right? I smacked a fist against my knee. She should do something about the water here. Furt crossed his arms. You might not know this since you only fish in close waters, but the land and ocean are way worse up north. People are starving there. Bindewald doesn't even have a geeb right now, so things are absolute hell. Only makes sense she'd start with the north. That was fair enough. I didn't know much about how the duchy was doing elsewhere. I wish she'd give us some attention too, but everyone all across the duchy was probably thinking the same thing. She's just starting with the worst spots, Furt said. We can expect her back here soon. She won't abandon us, so we just gotta wait our turn. Yeah, you're right. Something told me she'd come back, especially when she was doing so much for the sake of the duchy's commoners. I gotta admit, I'm looking forward to when she does return, Furt said. We saw her go west in that weird rainbow thing. Huh? Weird rainbow thing? Yeah, we were curious. We wanted to know what Lady Rozemyne was going to do next, so we moored at a nearby city and spoke to some of the farmers there. They told us she was staying in a huge rainbow house. He pointed, so I turned to look with a mouth full of cooked fish. It was twice the size of that granary over there, but had the head and tail of a fey beast. A creation of the gods if ever I've seen one, though it was pretty weird. A rainbow granary with an animal head? That just doesn't make sense. And get this, it flew! Furt, are you losing it, I asked? I get that you want to make it sound cool, but enough already. Something that big could never leave the ground. I'm being serious. You're gonna eat your words when she comes back this way. Yeah, whatever. Sure hope we get to see her again soon. We were trying to calm Furt when we heard some banging. Someone from the soldiery or maybe one of the guilds must have had an announcement to make. It usually meant the nobles had made some kind of unreasonable demand. Last time it was a message to the fishermen telling us to leave the port before the foreigners arrived. It hadn't even been the usual trade period. What's going on, I wondered. Lady Rozemyne's still up north, ain't she? Were the nobles trying to do something while the new ob was away? We all stood feeling anxious and went to the plaza. Others stepped outside their homes to hear what the person causing the racket had to say. Urgent news from the castle, one of several soldiers announced. Tonight, between 6 and 7 bell, the new ob plans to cast a large-scale spell to fill the entire duchy with mana at once. Do not be alarmed if the sky starts to light up. I repeat. In other words, we didn't need to do anything. I could see why the soldiers had warned us, but a spell really wasn't something to get worked up about. We went about to sitting by the port, feeling a little disappointed. I wonder what he meant by the sky lighting up, I said. Is rainbow light gonna start raining down on us or something? He was probably referring to the rainbow thing I saw first, said. You know, the big one with the face? Bet we're gonna see it. There you go again, I sighed. You're not gonna fool us. God, just you wait. It's seriously the weirdest thing ever. We drank more and continued to chat before going our separate ways to watch whatever Lady Rozemine's spell was going to do. It was late enough that I'd normally be in bed. I rose before dawn on days I went fishing, but instead I stood outside of my wife, Fina. If it'd stop you drinking so much, I'd want the Ob to cast a spell every night, she said. Instead of going to the well, how about we wait by the port? Bert told us a story about this other province's ocean changing color. I want to see if ours changes too. Doubt you'd even notice when it's this dark out, but sure. We passed the plaza where our neighbors were waiting and soon reached the street. Most people knew that the spell. Most people we saw were staring up at the sky in anticipation, while others headed to the mountains near the nobles' quarter. It was like a festival. We heard a buzz of excitement everywhere we went. Jiffy, Fina, had the same idea, did you? We arrived at the port to find a bunch of people already gathered. Fina saw the beer in our hands as soon as they sat around the fire and pulled a face like she just swallowed dirt. What's with you, men? She snapped. It's drinking all you're good at. Now, Fina, don't get so mad, Ankh said. It's not every night that the Ob does something for us. Come have a beer, why don't you? Jiffy, grab your wife a box to sit on. I nodded to Ankh, who was waving his bottle around while trying to cheer up Fina, and went to fetch 2 boxes. We all drank and ate whatever food people brought from their homes while waiting for the spell to begin. Oh, I think it's starting. There's something bright over there. Fina pointed, and everyone followed her finger. Pale light stretched out from the castle, which sat much higher than the port and the rest of the city. I was starting to think it was larger than anything Fert had described, but a burst of green shot up into the sky. Green light, I cried. Fert, you said it was rainbow. It was! But she's doing healing, essentially. We all turned and saw him frowning up at the sky. Yeah, this ain't what I saw, he muttered. I don't see Lady Rozemyne or her knights. The green light moved as though it were alive. It went from the sky above the castle to the nobles' quarter and the lower city before shooting straight over our heads, drawing a stripe as it went. It's going toward the gate, right? Is rainbow light gonna fall out of the green light? We watched and waited as the line headed west. A complex pattern soon started sprouting from it. It looks kind of like lacework, one of the women said. Another agreed, like one of those decorative fans them rich girls use. The other women seemed just as moved, and they kept saying how wonderful the design looked. We men were seeing exactly the same thing from exactly the same place, but we knew had something else on our minds. It's impressive, but it ain't rainbow-colored. This ain't the big weird thing that you were telling us about, right? It is pretty huge, though. I never said anything about a pattern, Fert protested. It was a huge granary-sized thing. It could move, soar through the air, it even had a strange head, remember? Fert, the heck did you even see? That's what I want to know, he shouted. What was she doing in Conowitz? His confusion aside, the magic actually was kind of crazy. It continued west, then went north, and the pattern kept spreading. The announcement had told us to expect a large-scale spell, but this was even greater than any of us had imagined. We stared up at the green lines in awe. Attention, citizens of Aronsbach, soon to be called Alexandria. Can you hear me? What the? I almost jumped out of my skin. Where's that voice coming from? It belonged to a young man, but seemed to be coming from some kind of device nearby. I'd never seen anything like it. I serve Lady Rozemyne, the duchy's new Ob, the voice continued. My lady created the magic circle now stretching across the sky to fill this barren duchy with mana. You are bearing witness to a spell dating back to the era of myth, one that can be performed only by the divine avatar of Mestanora. To receive the gods' blessings, one must pray, and to best serve Alexandria, one must pray to Lady Rozemyne. Praise be to the gods. What? It matters not whether you are a commoner or a noble, the voice continued. Everyone is taught to pray during their baptism and coming-of-age ceremony. Your zeal will determine the strength of the blessing that enriches this land. Pray to better your lives and to enrich the barren earth with mana. I shall say it again. Praise be to the gods! We couldn't even see this mystery speaker, but his intensity came through loud and clear. He wanted us to pray. We all stood confused and a little overwhelmed. Well, if praying will make the fish come back, I muttered. I recognize this voice, Fert said. We heard this guy when we went north. He gave us the same instructions, so we all prayed on board our ship. Together we went over the post the priest had taught us in the temple. We gotta raise our hands and right leg, right? And you've gotta shout, praise be to the gods, Fert had it demonstrated for us. This is so stupid. I'm sorry, but that freaking prayer pose is so stupid. I wasn't convinced that praying would actually change things, but I couldn't refuse to try. It was for the good of the duchy, or so we were being told, and we commoners would end up in more trouble than most if our land and ocean didn't improve. Let us pray to Lady Rozemyne, the divine avatar of Mestanora, the voice announced. Praise be to the gods! Praise be to the gods! We did our best, but it wasn't good enough. The noble we couldn't see immediately started criticizing us. Heartmuts! Shut up already! Good God, dude! Seriously, give them a break. They haven't probably done this since they were coming of age. Good God. Good God, dude. That was insulting. Take this seriously. There is no divide between nobles and commoners when it comes to prayer. To all the nobles out there, you should understand just how much mana this spell demands and how much Lady Rozemyne is shaving down her life to cast it. Now everyone, make your hearts one. Give a prayer befitting Lady Rozemyne's magic. As it turned out, nobles were being forced to give this prayer too. I didn't know who was leading the charge, but we imagined the looks on the nobles' faces and cackled. Funny to think we're all in the same boat. Lady Rozemyne's given up some of her life to do something that even nobles find tough. An image of our new Ob appeared in my mind, a young woman not even old enough to wear her hair up. She was from another duchy but hadn't even hesitated to cast the spell for us. It was our duty as citizens to help out. Maybe we weren't taking it seriously enough, I said. Let's put our all into this next one. By the third prayer, we could hear shouting from outside the port. By the fourth, we were all competing to be the loudest, and our voices boomed to the point that it sounded like the whole city was praying. We're getting there, the leader of our prayer exclaimed. One more! Let us pray to Lady Rozemyne, the divine avatar of Mestanora, the avatar of a goddess. Praise be to the gods. Praise be to the gods! We prayed so passionately, the whole city seemed to shake. And that was when I saw the green light coming back toward us. It had twisted all around the duchy and spread so far that there were barely any more gas in the night sky. We're so close, the circle's connecting. The line returned to the castle, completing the magic circle, and a dazzling flash lit up the night sky. Green light rained down on the entire duchy as if the circle had started to crumble. Oh, praise be to the gods! We all cheered at once, maybe because praying together had united us. The voice coming from the strange device raved the entire time. Hartmut? Seriously? We witnessed the revival of an ancient spell using divine mana from the gods. How glorious! Praise be to Lady Rozemyne, to our divine avatar of Mestanora. Everyone who prayed, behold your rejuvenated duchy and express your gratitude to your new Ob. Those of us near the ocean peered down into the water, but my wife was right. It was too dark for us to notice any changes. Still, we had high hopes based on what Ferd had seen in Conowitz. Can't wait for tomorrow. Let's go get some sleep. Meet back here at dawn and we'll check out the ocean together. As we rushed down the buzzing city streets on our way home, our wives teased us that we were all too excited to get any rest. Morning came, and once again, Finna was right. I had barely slept a wink and woke up even earlier than usual. It was still dark out, but it wouldn't be too long before the sun came up. I ran outside and raced down the steps, intending to pass right by the well, but I stopped in my tracks when something rustled under my feet. What the? There hadn't been any grass there the night before, but now it was tall enough to reach my shins. I crouched down and touched it. Even through my sandals, I could feel that the hard, dry earth had turned soft. Is this real? I murmured. Man, if even the well changed this much, how's the ocean gonna be? I continued rushing through the port, excitement brewing in my chest. The sky seemed to get brighter with each step. I'd probably have an amazing view of the ocean by the time I reached the port. Taking deep breaths, I ran through the alleys and turned sharp corners. I reached the main street which led to the port, and stopped. Beyond white buildings and the white road, I saw a bright blue-green ocean. Even from this far away, I could tell the water was clear. No way. I'd never seen the ocean like this. Only then did it occur to me just how dark and murky the water had been before. Ever since those black and silver boats had come through, the fish had started dying faster than ever, and the ocean had become especially clouded. I thought of all the days we'd set out to sea and came back empty-handed. This is how it used to be, said a voice I immediately recognized. I turned and saw Sect with his dad. They were heading to the port as well. We decided to make the rest of the journey together. Decided to let your old man set sail with you, eh? I asked Sect. I remember their argument over who owned their ship and whether his dad would return from retirement. But maybe they'd finally reached an agreement. I'm getting my ship back, Sect's dad declared. The Ob fixed me up like it were nothing. Gotta thank her by getting her fish. Huh? I told you I'm the one getting her fish, Sect complained. You're retired, old man. Stay out of this. So much for them reaching an agreement. It didn't really matter to me which one of them took charge, but there was one thing I couldn't let fly. I stretched my arms and they raced on ahead. Too bad, both of you. I'm gonna get the Ob her fish. Huh? Get back here, Jiffy. We'll straighten this out later, son. Don't let him win. We raced each other to the port where we found other fishermen already trying to launch their boats, who must have been on the late side. Finally up and about, eh? One of our mates teased us. We're going on ahead. It's a race to see who gets to thank Lady Rozemyne first. Hooray! Weigh anchor, prepare to set out. Praise be to Lady Rozemyne, praise be to the gods. Fishermen launched their boats and sailed out into the sparkling ocean. There were so many fish swimming around that we could see them with our own two eyes, and their glistening scales made for an even more wonderful sight. I climbed aboard my own boat and set out as well. Booyah! Now I can't wait. In the last installment, no! I don't want the last installment. I want it to continue. I'm sorry if you can't see this. Okay, A Comfy Life with My Family. And everybody is watching Rozemyne and Ferdinand. Oh, this is where he's telling her to shut up and essentially quit being emotional during the meeting because she was freaking out and her mana was going out of control. Yeah, do not get emotional. Do not waste energy. Got it. Life sure is tense these days. Yeah, everybody is watching essentially the peanut gallery. God damn, still can't read it, and this print is too small. I wish I could make it bigger. I'll figure it out, guys. I'll have to figure it out. I hope you guys are excited for more, and we just now have to wait for the last book. I don't want it to be the last book. I want to continue reading the series. Come on. Anyway, I'll get to work on everything, and I'll see you guys in the next video.